Welcome back to the Context Channel. I am your host, Emily. If you are reading the developments and not furious like me, you haven't been paying attention full to the scale of the situation. Because today, we are going to expose a lie, a massive calculated geopolitical lie that has cost over 80 human lives in the Caribbean. We are talking about Venezuela, and we are talking about Donald Trump. Why is the US suddenly acting like an invading force, deploying warships, aircraft carriers like the USS Gerald R. Ford, and F-35 jets right off the Venezuelan coast? Why this insane amount of military hardware? The official line from Washington is simple. This is the war on drugs. They claim that drug shipments emanating from that country are flooding America, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. But here is the reality. That is a complete fabricated lie. This is not about saving American lives from drugs. This is about greed and the total unadulterated control of a $300 billion prize. This is about oil. Stick with me, because by the end of this episode, you will see how Trump's obsession with oil connects the Venezuelan fishermen, the Mexican drug cartels, and the betrayal of President Zelensky in Ukraine. This is the final checkmate for global dominance. We will divide this in 3 parts for you, and then reach to the conclusion on the topic. Let us look at first part, the disproportionate force and the drug lie debunked. Let's start with the sheer absurdity of the military deployment. A senior U.S. official, briefed on the campaign, actually told the press that the U.S. forces in the region are focused on counter-narcotics operations. But they admitted that the assembled firepower far outweighs what is necessary. Think about that. The U.S. is sending a floating city, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with 6,500 personnel, to catch a few drug smugglers in rubber boats. This isn't a counter-narcotics mission. This is an assault-made operation, pure and simple. They want to scare them into submission and cause enough conflict for the regime to collapse. And the victims? 83 people have been killed so far in these so-called drug boat strikes in the Caribbean and Pacific since September. Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, claims they're often just fishermen. But does Trump care? He just says, "I'm Donald Trump. I said kill them, so kill them." Now let's smash the core argument. The drug connection. Look at the data from US agencies, not just some talking head. The first point to be noted is the cocaine source. Now, Venezuela is not a major producer. It doesn't even produce much cocaine, and its domestic cultivation is negligible. While it helps move it around, the US's own 2020 estimate shows only about 10% to 13% of the global supply flows through Venezuela. A second point to be observed is the absence of Guatemala. Guatemala has a much bigger hand. As per US reports, the country moved 4 to 5 times more cocaine in 1 year alone. But you hear zero about Guatemala from Trump. Why? Because Guatemala doesn't have oil. The third point to be observed is the fentanyl farce. Fentanyl is the drug Trump uses to terrify Americans. But where does it come from? The DEA and the Justice Department all confirm. Fentanyl is almost entirely produced in Mexico, using chemicals imported from China. Venezuela has virtually no role. Yet, he ignores Mexico too, because the game is elsewhere. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, a South American leader with boots on the ground, confirmed this sham to CNN. Let us hear from the leader.
What's happening near Venezuela? We have seen the US administration going after drug boats, they say. We've seen more than, 80 people killed. And if it is about drugs, do you think that Colombia could be at risk here?
No, lo que está detrás es lo mismo que está detrás de la guerra de Ucrania.
¿Qué es?
Petróleo. Petróleo.
Que los americanos van atrás del petróleo. Americans are chasing
tiene
oil.
que ver con todo lo que he hablado en esta reunión, que a veces tú pues, la coges como un tema ajeno, pero está en el centro de las circunstancias. Entonces se llama petróleo. Colombia no, Venezuela tiene una de las mayores o la mayor reserva del mundo en petróleo hasta ahora pesado, ojo con esa definición. Y en Ucrania hay reservas y en general todas las guerras de este siglo han tenido que ver con el petróleo.
We know President Trump is transactional. You're saying he's going after Venezuela's oil. If that is the case, do you think the United States will attack, will strike inside of Venezuela?
Oh, van a conseguir el petróleo casi gratis.
To reiterate what Gustavo shared, he mentioned that oil is at the heart of U.S. pressure campaign on Venezuela. He's not thinking about the democratization of Venezuela, let alone the narco trafficking. The only thing driving this is a desire to take control of Venezuela's vast natural resources, including oil. It's a transparent lie. Let us look at second part, the 303 billion barrel prize. So if it's not drugs, what is it? It's the crown jewel of global energy, the world's largest crude oil reserves. Forget Saudi Arabia, forget Russia. The number one holder of crude oil is Venezuela, sitting on a massive 303.22 billion barrels, and Trump wants it. Look at the chronology of escalation. It proves this was never about drugs. It was always about overthrowing a regime that wouldn't play ball. It began in January 2025 when Trump refuses to recognize President Maduro's third term, calling it a fraud. In March 2025, Trump cancels Joe Biden's previously granted oil concessions and threatens a 25% tariff on any nation that dares buy Venezuelan oil. The first attack is always on the wallet, the oil. August 2025, Trump escalates to the insane. He designates an elected head of state as a foreign terrorist organization and places a $50 million reward on Maduro's head. Think of the brazenness. October 2025, Trump authorizes CIA operations inside Venezuela to destabilize the country. He's systematically dismantling the country to get his hands on the Orinoco Belt, the region where the major oil-producing areas are concentrated. The Venezuelan military, with only 123,000 active personnel, is a small force that America could wipe out in 48 hours. It's not a fight. It's a conquest disguised as an intervention. Let's look at third part, the blackmail and the geopolitical bully. Reuters reported a shocking development. On November 21st, Trump and Maduro actually spoke on the phone. What did Donald Trump say? Nothing doing. He didn't want a peaceful resolution. He wanted to teach a lesson. The phone call lasted less than 15 minutes. His message was a terrifying ultimatum. I'm giving you 1 week to leave Venezuela, or you will be eliminated. Just get out of here. No safe passage guarantee. This is exactly what happened with Iraq. They said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. They invaded, they hanged him, and then they said, oops, sorry, small things happen. A whole country was destroyed. This is the playbook. And if you need any more proof of Trump's imperial attitude, he casually declared the entire airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. A random, unilateral, illegal order closing a sovereign nation's airspace. When Weeder says, I can do anything because I'm Donald Trump, you know you're not dealing with a geopolitical partner. You're dealing with a bully. Let us look at fourth part, the final checkmate, from Caracas to Kyiv. Why this extreme ruthlessness? Because Venezuela is not the target. It's a tool in a much larger economic war for global oil control. Now, who are America's best friends in the oil business? Saudi Arabia, Canada, the UAE, Kuwait. The document states clearly, these allies literally take dictation from Donald Trump. A plan is simple. Venezuela, finished. Iran, finished. Iraq, finished. Russia, finished. Libya, finished. You take out all the competitors, and suddenly, the entire world is forced to buy oil from Trump's friends. This brings us to the ultimate moment of hypocrisy, the Ukraine betrayal. Remember all that pressure on countries like India to stop buying cheap Russian oil? The US said, "You can't buy from Russia. You're funding the war. Ukrainians are dying." And what is Donald Trump doing right now? He is letting go of Ukraine's hand. The very leader who was posing as Ukraine's biggest advocate is now saying, "Go to hell. I won't give you money. I won't give you weapons." The finally proof of his cynical self-interest is this. When Russia gave a 28-point surrender plan for Ukraine, Trump, without looking, took those very 28 points and copied and pasted them for Ukraine, essentially telling President Zelensky, "This is what's happening, kid. Go with it." He threw Ukraine under the bus for a domestic political score and to solidify his position in the global oil game. Let us go through the key takeaways from this. This is not a war on drugs. It is a war for oil. It is a war for global supply control. And it's a war being waged under a false flag. Trump's strategy is to lock down the entire situation, eliminate all rivals, force the world to buy from his allies, and then use that dominance to pressure countries like India and checkmate competitors like China. The fact is, Trump is exploiting the suffering of the Venezuelan people to seize control of the world's most valuable natural resource. And he's doing it while simultaneously betraying the nation he once claimed to support, all in the name of economic and political victory. The big question: will the world stand by and let one man's greed redraw the global energy map? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Global Pivot, and share this video with everyone you know. You need to know the truth. I'll see you next time.